Title: The Best Offer. Year: 2013. Runtime: 131 minutes. Genre: crime, drama, mystery. Cast: Geoffrey Rush, Jim Sturgess, Sylvia Hoeks. Director: Giuseppe Tornatore. Tagline: everything can be faked. A master auctioneer becomes obsessed with an extremely reclusive heiress who collects fine art. Among the movies of 2013 that I added to my watch list, The Best Offer remained the most curious one and one that I was eager to see. Though critics didn't think much of it, the film was directed by Giuseppe Tornatore, whose films I always enjoy. More notably, it was scored by the legendary Ennio Morricone. Knowing that my favorite film composer had worked on a mainstream English-language movie for the first time in years was my main reason for watching the film. Whenever I see Morricone's name in an opening credit, my ears grow in size. Despite my hatred of trailers, they always give the fucking plot and spoilers away. My curiosity got the better of me and I checked the shorter version out. Yes, it told me more than I wanted to know, but I still felt that this would be a picture worth seeing. Add that to the fact that we got a tease of the music to come and I was very much intrigued. The plot revolved around an auctioneer, Virgil Oldman, played by the ever-brilliant Geoffrey Rush, who becomes fixated with an anonymous client, Claire, who has a strange disease. Interesting. The Best Offer flows at a majestic pace, revealing little snippets of information to this strange mystery that dominates the screen time scene by scene. The grandiose atmosphere is beautiful. Often it is created by having the main character in the center of the frame, while usually in a large set, and with the camera far back. These are blending in well with close-up shots of Rush when his emotional state is important to note. Our curiosity of the strange lady mirrors that of the protagonist, who is by no means a great man. Virgil Oldman's love and passion for art is shadowed by the fact that he is pretentious, cold, and, alongside his accomplice Billy Whistler, is a fraud. His auctions are in fact cons. When he auctions paintings that he wishes to keep, he sends a signal to Billy, who bids for it on his behalf for a reduced price, allowing no one else to get in. In most cases this plot decision would make an audience dislike the main character, or at least acknowledge the fact that he is a very flawed man. However, I believe his adoration and admiration for art is conveyed so well that, for me at least, I never saw him as a bad man for this. His actions are certainly wrong, yes, but having been in a position where I most desperately wanted to complete my collection of something, films if you're wondering, and would do anything to finish it, I understand his mentality. Virgil Oldman is a man whose attachment to paintings seems to have replaced any longing for human contact. He is shown to have no friends, unless you count Billy, and if you've seen the film, you won't, no wife, no family, no one. And yet he doesn't seem to care. Look at the expression of Rush's face when he is in the painting room. His happiness is conveyed so well. You can tell that he feels no need for human contact, since the paintings are enough for him. It is also interesting to note that his paintings are of females. This suggests possibly that he is afraid of them, afraid of getting close. Perhaps he never tried, and would rather admire them from a distance. Or at least he appreciates the beauty and elegance of women through his paintings. There are three other major characters. The previously mentioned Billy Whistler, the young man Robert who works in some kind of technical store, and of course our mystery woman. She is the only character more reclusive than Virgil. Hell, she hasn't been out of the house in 15 years, which is probably why he was so drawn to her. That and the fact that Virgil finds little pieces of, robot bits scattered around the woman's house which are invaluable if put together, which is where the chap at the shop comes in. It is clear from the onset that these pieces have been deliberately placed around the lady's home, which only adds to his curiosity. The meat of the film is when Rush draws out Claire from her solitary confinement, sometimes by means that shatters her vital privacy, who in turn reveals many flaws of Virgil to him. Interestingly, he acts on these criticisms, such as when he no longer dyes his hair in order to discontinue lying to himself and live what we can consider a truer lifestyle. As their chemistry strengthens, the mystery of the film weakens. So we know over time that the peculiar and often scary woman is in fact agoraphobic and with a fear of people, and Geoffrey Rush's character has finally done something good for another human being. Not only that, he has done good for himself. The best offer very civilly develops a romantic tone after the covered feel dissolves, as we spent time with this new couple. He even shows her his private painting room. This is such a touching scene. For a man, especially a man like Virgil, to expose something so private and dear to him to another human being is an extraordinary thing that should not be taken lightly. It is also in this scene that Claire tells Virgil that she will always love him, in case something comes between them. Cough cough. This reinforces the fact that there is always a hint of desolation in the brilliant atmosphere Giuseppe Tornatore creates. The music was excellent. Morricone is just amazing. To think that the man is in his late 80s. I was right to get my hopes up for the soundtrack. It's just beautiful and, more importantly, is used to fine effect by the director. I won't talk about the score because I think it expresses itself fine when you hear it. The scene in the painting room was elevated to one of the best of the year thanks to the sweeping operatic camera movements, great acting, and the genius of Ennio Morricone. The best thing about the best offer, in my eyes, or ears, is the soundtrack, hands down. After a satisfying run of mystery toppled with romance, we are brought to a scene where Geoffrey Rush is taking a painting, a gift from Billy after Virgil announces his retirement, into his secret room. He puts in the password, walks inside the room with the camera facing towards him, looks up and... silence. Stunned silence. The painting clatters to the floor as an empty, cold room is shown to greet him. Gone. All gone. Every last one of his precious paintings stolen. As it turns out, Clara and Robert were both in on the robbery, with Billy being the mastermind behind it. With a clank of a fallen portrait, our protagonist's heart is finally shattered. He is left just a robot that Billy was working on sitting in the corner mocking him. The devastation for Virgil Oldman is presented very bluntly, making it ever harder to take and sink in. After all his attempts to open up and change, he is shot back down and buried deep. Devastating. There are also times where the film plays with Rush's character, taunting him with possible scenarios that suggest that Claire was not in on the scheme, and I too was desperate that this was the case. Nevertheless, the realization sinks in soon enough, knowing that it was the people he felt closest to, and yet treated unfairly in the case of Billy Whistler, it has to be said, must have been the thing that pushes him over the edge. Yes, Virgil, to put it simply, is shown to lose his mind. Was this twist necessary? I think so. I don't think the film would be complete without it. It didn't feel shocking just for the sake of being shocking. Was it evocating? I think Virgil's reaction to it was. Is there a point trying to be made here? I don't think so. I don't think the film has some sort of agenda. I just think it stands on its own feet as a piece of entertainment superbly. It was the fact that I was empathetic and emotionally invested in the character that I found the twist haunting. Virgil is shown to consider contacting the police, the irony being that he acquired the paintings fraudulently himself and they are not in his name. However, I don't believe that this was the reason for him deciding against involving the authorities. I think he thought that, well, what was the point? The thing that destroyed him was the betrayal of Claire more than the theft of the paintings, I believe, and even if he by some miracle did manage to get them all back, they would be rendered redundant. Pointless. Violated. The twist, I'm sure, would bring up plot holes or continuity errors, and boy was that an over-elaborate plan, but I didn't notice any and nor do I care. It's just not that sort of film. Virgil remembers when Claire told him an anecdote about a cafe she once visited and loved. Hoping against hope, as desperate men do, he travels there and sits at a table, awaiting in despair for his love. This scene is played alongside shots of Virgil in a mental hospital of sorts, having lost his mind. My heart tells me that this took place before the cafe scene, meaning he recovered enough to bring back help into his life. However, my brain tells me that this is in fact his final destination. I think he knew that she would never come, but had to maintain his fantasy in order to stay sane. Did it work? Well, the film leaves that ambiguous. As he sits in the cafe, he tells the waiter he is waiting for someone. Then the camera graciously swoops back, exposing all the ticking clocks, which could represent so many different things in the movie. With this, the screen fades and Morricone's masterful haunting score kicks in. The end. Exhausting. Moving. Every which way you look at it, there is no happy ending hiding behind the end credits. Virgil Oldman is broken just as soon as he was being pieced together. And then the movie is finished. Wow. There are so few mainstream films nowadays that emotionally move me and that dedicate themselves to being artistic. In comparison to the usual Hollywood clutter we get, there are fewer still that successfully do so. This is one of them. The best offer gets a big thumbs up from me. A solid film. One of Tornatore's very best. My rating, 8.